Welcome to But Frankly Pierce News. I'm Arthur Fairview. Here's what we are facing. It's been 819 days since the January 6th attack on the Capitol and our democracy, and failed former President Trump has finally been indicted.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yesterday, the failed former president heeded his lawyer's advice and turned himself in. He reported to the courthouse in Lower Manhattan and finally faced the music. The major protest that he asked for never materialized. There were some of his supporters present opposite the courthouse, as well as plenty of people cheering for the indictment. Yet the media presence took up the lion's share of the crowd. It was a media circus for what is ordinarily a very mundane, boring process. However, at 1:24 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, April 4th, the failed former president entered the courthouse and was officially placed under arrest. That, my friends, is history in the making. Attorneys for the defendant stated the failed former president was, and I quote, "He was upset, frustrated, disappointed, and mad." In the proceedings, the failed former president was quiet. His usual loudmouth, excessive logorrhea was not present.
Quiet? Him?
He actually kept his mouth shut for once?
The only words spoken by him were when he pled not guilty to the 34 felony charges in the indictment.
Will wonders never cease?
Now, before the court proceedings even happened, the loudest mouth in Congress and the official congressional Karen, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and her pet lapdog, George Santos, came to New York to engage in protests across from the courthouse.
Oh, really?
And how did that work out for them?
Within minutes of their separate arrivals, after reporters and counter-protesters surrounded the lawmakers, both of them fled the scene. Santos left before the protest official start time. In Greene's case, demonstrators with whistles and drums drowned her out shortly after she reached the rally, hastening her departure.
Excellent.
Outstanding.
So exit, stage left.
Then the failed former president left the courthouse and flew back to Florida, where he found his voice.
Yep, right where he left it, back at Mar-a-Lago.
Just in time for a rally, right?
Right. Understanding his usual rhetoric and penchant for spinning facts into lies, we were able to take his traditional verbosity and edit it down to a bite-sized chunk.
Did you get any of that?
No, but not sure if I wanted to anyway.
Let me simplify it. When addressing the criminal charges, he responded,
"The only crime that I have committed is trying to indoctrinate everyone down to the lowest ranking patriot."
Ouch. Did he just slam his MAGA followers?
Looks like MAGA now means my ass got arrested.
I love it.
He spoke of his time in office.
President Trump. It's an insult to our country as the world is already laughing at us.
Well, he is not wrong.
I asked him what legacy he left behind after 4 years as president.
The most embarrassing time in our country's history, in my opinion.
And that, surprisingly enough, is a statement with which we can all agree. It's kind of funny when you think about this whole thing. For years, the failed former president never paid his debts and got away with it. Now, the one time he actually paid for something, in this case hush money to Stormy Daniels, he gets indicted.
I guess irony can be pretty ironic sometimes.
Next, score one for the good guys. You may recall a few weeks back, we reported how Florida Governor Ron
Desensitize?
Desanitize?
other Florida man,
There you
There you
go.
go.
made a move to seemingly punish the Walt Disney Company by stripping away its Reedy Creek Development District and creating the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, and appointed 5 of his allies to the board, including a prominent parents' rights activist, a Christian nationalist, and a lawyer who donated $50,000 to his campaign.
Oh, yes, I remember now.
That was a nasty move.
Well, Disney did something no one saw coming, and they did it in plain sight. The newly appointed board was sitting for its second official meeting on Wednesday when it announced it had made a discovery. It might not be able to carry out the agenda it had planned.
Curses, foiled again. Hey, that's my line.
19 days before DeSantis signed the final bill, the former Reedy Creek board had signed agreements with Disney, essentially stripping the board of power and handing that power back to Disney. Called a Declaration of Restrictive Covenants, the measure allows Disney to have the final say on any alterations to the property, and requires the board to inform Disney of plans of such alterations without conditions or delays.
Game, set, and match to Disney.
I wonder what disenfranchise is thinking now.
No! God, please, no! No!
And in the world of the unlikely and bizarre, the TSA has now declared that peanut butter is a liquid.
Clearly, they haven't actually looked at peanut butter.
It's more solid or gel-like, especially the chunky.
Unless you're talking about that natural stuff.
Oh, right, with the oil on top.
Oh, and then you have to
got
stir it in.
There hasn't been this kind of food outrage since 1981, when the Reagan administration declared ketchup a vegetable. Moving on, some good news from our international watch. When President Lula DeSilva took office this year in Brazil, many environmental and indigenous rights groups hoped he would fulfill campaign promises of better protection for the Amazon rainforest and the people who live there.
And unlike so many of his American political counterparts, did he keep those promises?
It appears so. Nearly 4 months into his tenure, early signs are that Lula was telling the truth, as Brazilian police have evicted dozens of illegal gold miners from the Yanomami Reserve, an area the size of Portugal inhabited by around 35,000 tribesmen.
I love gold!
Right. Illegally mined gold accounts for around half of all the country's exports, and a new Environment of the Amazon Division of the federal police is seeking international assistance in building a first-rate structure for targeting the outside funding towards sales from illegal gold mining.
Mine.
Okay, sure.
Mine.
Okay. Reuters says that so far the new division has ousted nearly all miners from the area, including overseeing the destruction of 250 mining camps. They also plan to remove miners from 6 other Amazon reserves this year, while setting up a permanent floating police station on the river in the Yanomami Reserve. And now, some more good news. Wisconsin has been a bastion of Republican conservatism for years, thanks to a heavily gerrymandered districting map heavily favoring Republicans.
That sounds about right.
An open seat on the Supreme Court in Wisconsin had many calling this the most consequential race for Wisconsin and the United States in decades. After spending $45 million, which may have translated to the highest ever turnout for a spring primary contest, more than 960,000 voters, the race is over.
And are the results in?
Oh, yes. Liberal Milwaukee County Judge Janet crushed her opponent.
Like Giles Corey in the Salem witch trials?
No.
Crushed like Lucille Ball making wine in that episode of I Love Lucy?
No, Justice how do I pronounce this?
Okay, prota, like,
Like prototype.
pro,
Prototype.
prototype, prota.
Yeah.
Say, she's gonna say the right things for all of Wisconsin. That's what you really emphasize.
Got it.
Prota say wits. She's got her wits about her.
There you go. Way to go.
Prota say wits.
Thank you. Justice Protasewicz won with 55.5% of the vote, crushing her opponent, Daniel Kelly, who only got 44.5%.
Oh.
Well, that's somewhat anticlimactic.
And now, it's time for
The deuce, you say?
a dispute between Jack Daniels and the makers of a squeaking dog toy that mimics the whiskey's signature bottle gave the Supreme Court a lot to chew on this past Wednesday.
Wait, did you say the Supreme Court?
Yes,
Of the United States?
yes.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Our tax dollars at work.
The question for the court involves whether the toy makers infringed on Jack Daniels' trademarks.
I wonder if Jack Daniels provided liquid encouragement.
Some of them probably didn't need it.
Well, there were 3 of the justices either completely or almost totally silent, and it wasn't clear from the arguments whether Jack Daniels' case is on the rocks or whether the makers of the bad Spaniel's toy has been, well, bad. When the company's lawyer pushed back on the justice's knowledge about dog toys, Justice Samuel Alito responded in part with, "I had a dog. I know something about dogs." His late Springer Spaniel Zeus sometimes visited the court.
I didn't know there was a Bring Your Pet to the Supreme Court Day.
Justice Elena Kagan suggested the toy is simply an ordinary commercial product that is trading on the look of the liquor company's bottle. The packaging of the toy, which retails for around $20, notes in small font, "This product is not affiliated with Jack Daniel Distillery. The Jack Daniel's Lynchburg, Tennessee distillery isn't amused." According to the company's attorney, Lisa Blast, Jack Daniels loves dogs and appreciates a good joke as much as anyone. But Jack Daniels likes its customers even more and doesn't want them confused or associating its fine whiskey with dog poop.
Okay, going forward, I'm switching to bourbon.
Speaking of which, we'll be right back after a few words from our sponsor.
Notice the color, the aroma, a nice roundness to its mouthfeel. Aromatic, never bitter, sweet vanilla and mellowed oak with a welcoming amount of heat. That is the quintessential bourbon. Black & Barn, the quintessential bourbon.
Nike, Campbell's Soup Company, outdoor brand Patagonia, and jeans maker Levi Strauss were among those urging the justices in court filings to side with Jack Daniels. The company also has the support of the Biden administration. One last thing regarding our lead story. The failed former president was always boasting about breaking records. The most votes.
A lie.
The most people at his inauguration.
Another lie.
Well, now he has truly broken a record, and it is no lie.
Now this, I gotta hear.
He has broken the record for presidents criminally charged, which was previously 0.
Nice.
There's been 819 days since the January 6th attack on our Capitol and our democracy, and the failed former president has still not been indicted or charged with anything related to insurrection. Watch this space. This has been Frankly Pierce News. Thanks for watching. I'm Arthur Fairview. We want a leader of the people. We want him honest, not deceitful. We want an angel in the public eye. And we won't give it up, Lord, until we die.
Yeah.